Welcome back to Spraguever Homestead. And today on Top 5 Tuesday, we're talking about your top 5 questions about incubating eggs. So your first question is, how long does it take to incubate eggs? It varies a little bit by species that you're doing. Chickens are pretty standard 21 days. Quail, 23 to 24. Ducks, turkeys, and peacocks are about 28. And most of your domestic geese are going to run a little bit closer to about 35 days. If you're incubating something else like pheasants, checkers, that sort of thing, just Google it, because those aren't anything that I've got any experience with, so I'm really not sure. Your next question is, if I'm incubating eggs, can I clean dirty eggs first? This isn't ideal, of course. You really want to use nest clean eggs if at all possible, so you don't disrupt the bloom, which is the kind of protectant coating that the hen naturally puts on her egg when she lays it. But you can. Some people will tell you it's not a good idea. I've done it, especially with duck eggs early on in the season, because ducks tend to get kind of muddy during, the spring rain season. Use an approved cleaner. Don't try and go off label and do your own thing. I use this from Mana Pro. This is an egg cleaner, and it does have directions specifically for incubator use. So if you're going to go ahead and try and wash some eggs, do follow the instructions on an approved cleaner, because you don't want to risk removing the bloom and infecting your egg, which will cause problems down the road. So your third question is, if you're not using a turner, how often do you need to turn your eggs? This seems to vary wildly by the person you ask, but the recommended rotations is at least 3 to 5 times a day. You can get by doing it every 8 hours, which will put you at 3-4 times a day, because I realize nobody wants to get up in the middle of the night to turn eggs. If you've got somebody in the house working a split shift, you might be able to make that work. For me, personally, going ahead and buying a turner is worth its weight in gold. They aren't that expensive. It takes a lot of the stress and the guesswork out for you. And if you've got like a humidity or one of the foam incubators, they're worth every penny that they cost. My hatch rates went up significantly when I had one, when I added the turner. It just takes the stress off you and wondering, did I or did I not turn them? Okay, question 4 is going to be, what should my incubator be set at? Now, if you've got a digital readout, such as on my Brinsea here, you want to be somewhere around 99.5 degrees, and that's pretty much universal for all of your poultry that you're going to try and hatch. When I had my humidity, because you're using a little tiny thermostat and it's not as accurate, I would just set that thing at 100 flat. Sometimes you'll get birds that hatch a little bit early, but 100 is pretty much a good number. Now, on your humidity, it'll tell you anywhere from 45 to 55%, and then you've got to up it at hatch. I set mine all the time 50% humidity and let it roll from there. I've never had a hatch problem. I've never had birds dry out during hatch. 50% seems to work for everything. It's on the high side for chickens as you're incubating, but it's on the low side for ducks. So a good 50%, especially if you're doing a mixed hatch, excellent way to go. Now, if you're using something that doesn't have a digital humidity readout, go down to your local Petco, go into the reptile department, and get the little dial gauge that will read humidity. They sell them for snakes and lizards and all kinds of stuff. You really want to know the humidity of what's going on in your incubator. Most of the foam incubators just tell you, fill tray 1 in the bottom during the incubation period, and then fill tray 2 during the hatch period. Depending where you are, this may make the humidity way too high. When we were in Mississippi, if I filled tray 2 during hatch, which is what they would tell me to do in the spring, when our humidity outside was crazy high, I would have trouble with chicks not drying out. So you're better off getting a little gauge. They're like $5-10, and making absolutely sure you know what the humidity in the incubator is and adjusting from there. Okay, and your last question is, where should I locate my incubator and can I put it outside in a garage? The answer is two-part, yes and no. If you're using a foam type incubator, again, like a Humidity or some of the other brands that make that, no, don't put them outside unless your shop or your garage is heated and well insulated. The reason for this is that they are not self-regulating. So if you set the little dial at 100 degrees, it may be working its butt off to keep it at 100 degrees, but if your garage is 55, it'll never hold temperature. You are better off putting it in a spare bedroom or somewhere else. We used to do ours in the laundry room sometimes. Just watch it when you're running the dryer if it heats up in there. So if you're using something that you really, that's really pretty manual, don't put them out anywhere. You can kind of get by building boxes for them and elaborate stuff, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you're using something like what I've got, and I realize this is a cabin incubator and a very big investment for most people, but a Brincy, they make even like I think they've even got a 3-egg incubator. Because they're digital and they are all self-regulating, you plug them in and they handle it themselves. Yes, if it's not going to be below 55 degrees in a garage, yes, you can put a Brincy outside and it'll self-regulate and take care of it all itself. I wouldn't recommend it because there again, your power consumption is going to go way high as it struggles to try and keep temperature. So really, an indoor space in the 70s, best bet to try and keep your incubator running correctly. But you can kind of fudge it there a little bit. Okay, so that's your top 5 on New Homesteader Question Tuesday for beginning incubation. If you have other questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. There is a lot of information on the internet. Do be a little bit careful because a lot of it contradicts itself. So, again, if you have questions, feel free to leave them for me, and we'll see you next time.